Hey, so
Hi.
first up, this is Katie.
Hi.
And before we get into the movie review, we should let you know we've done a podcast or started a podcast called One and Done.
This is true. One and done. One season TV shows that we're going to talk about. Currently, we are talking about Kindred, The Embraced.
And you can catch the video version of that podcast, actually, video probably right next to this one at McGTV, but we'll also have pretty soon the podcast available on, I don't know, we'll figure it out, Anchor, Stitcher, one of the podcasting services. So That's coming soon. Let's talk about Birds of Prey.
Yay, Birds of Prey.
So we went to go watch Birds of Prey and the fantabulous emancipation of one Harley Quinn.
That sounds about right.
That sounds about right. Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn returns from Suicide Squad.
Mm-hmm.
And this was interesting for you because you haven't seen Suicide Squad?
Nope. No, thank you. I'm
Okay.
fine. Fine, thanks.
What have you heard about Suicide Squad?
I mean, just based on other review podcasts that I've listened to, I know that it was kind of garbage. So, I guess. It was a lot of gobbledygook.
Gobbledygook.
A lot of setting up characters and not really setting up characters and everything all happening at once and just I'm fine.
I call it the movie equivalent of a lava lamp in that it's fun to have on in the background and every once in a while it catches your eye with some colors.
Oh, okay.
So,
Okay.
But Margot Robbie's really good in it as
I
Harley
bet.
Quinn. So
She was great in this movie.
Yep. She produced this movie.
She did, and there was no Jared Leto to be found anywhere near this movie. I don't think he was allowed near this movie.
They do cut in some Suicide Squad footage, like when she's fallen into the vat of acid. That is from the Suicide Squad.
Uh-huh.
Like flashbacks for her, because she has flashbacks in that movie too.
Mm.
And so every once in a while you'll see like the back of Jared Leto's head, but not his face full on, because then they got to pay him royalties. And then they do have a Leto stunt double in another flashback where it's just someone with green hair, and then he shows up animated. So
Yes, that did. Oh yeah, the animation scene. That was good.
that was really cool.
I like that.
So this is another DC extended universe movie, not to be confused or associated with the Joaquin Phoenix Joker movie, which is its own standalone thing. This is supposed to be set in the world of Wonder Woman, like I said, Suicide Squad, the Justice League, Batfleck, and all that stuff. So just imagine all that is happening probably around the same time as this little adventure. What's your familiarity with Birds of Prey overall and Harley Quinn outside of, the movies?
Well, I did grow up watching Batman the Animated Series, where she was introduced to all of us at the ripe age of 10. So that's how I know Harley Quinn. And then, let's see here, Birds of Prey. I mean, like most comic book movies where I'm not really familiar with the comic book characters, I'll kind of start reading the comic books, like right before I go see it. So I was reading some Bendis comics, and then I was reading some Gale comics before we saw this, and I decided I really like Birds of Prey. They're pretty cool. So.
There you go. Now, who was in the roster that you were reading mainly? Like, who was the main roster of characters for you in Birds of Prey? Because Birds of Prey, like, their cast is kind of rotating sometimes.
In the comics?
Yeah.
So the Bendis that I read, it was, let's see here. There was like a main Huntress storyline that was basically like this movie. And then let's see here. There was Black Canary, Batgirl, not Oracle, but Batgirl. And then there was also, let me think, Catwoman, Poison Ivy shows up eventually, and Harley shows up as well. So
you're saying it was kind of like bad guy, good guy team up?
Yeah, bad girl, good girl team up.
Okay. Oh yeah, bad girl.
Yep.
Brothers. We'll get to that.
Oh my god.
We'll get to that. Sorry, I'm jumping the gun here. My familiarity with Harley Quinn, of course, the animated series. That's where she got her start. That's where I first kind of got to know the character. I loved a lot of what she added to that show, and I'm glad she finally made it over to the mainstream comics. I never got into Birds of Prey personally, but I knew of a lot of the characters in that book, like Batgirl, of course, who becomes Oracle. Black Canary, I knew primarily because of the Justice League cartoon show that was born out of Batman the Animated Series, and I actually showed you a Justice League cartoon.
Oh yeah.
That had Black Canary and Huntress kind of going at odds with each other on a case, and that's actually where I found like one of my favorite versions of the Huntress is in the animated form. But I knew of the Huntress because she's known more as kind of a Batman family person in the comics to start off with, and then she becomes her own kind of thing.
Okay.
So I knew about these characters kind of surface level, but didn't really know much about actual story arcs or characters or motivations. So it was interesting to hear a little bit about like Huntress's backstory from you and things like that.
Yeah.
But this is a movie. It's doing its own kind of adaptation of the IP. So what we usually do here is break down a little bit of like what worked for us in here. Just straight ahead forward, this is kind of like more Harley Quinn's movie than anything else.
Correct. Yeah. It is her story. She is the narrator. So yes.
And like her voiceover will be with you throughout the whole movie as she kind of goes through this story about being emancipated from her relationship with the Joker and breaking out on her own, which is also being done in the Harley Quinn animated series on DC Universe. They kind of do a similar idea of like she's calling it quits with Joker and is striking out on her own. And through this particular version, though, she ends up meeting Black Canary, Huntress, Cassie Kane, who was Batgirl at one point in the comics. But she goes by another name now. I can't. Orphan or something like that, which kind of makes sense for her character.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's also in the Bendis comic series that was,
And Montoya, Renee Montoya, the police officer or detective who assists them. And she becomes like her own character in the comics, I know. I think she becomes the Question at one point in the comics. So this sort of follows all these characters kind of meeting to defeat Black Mask, played by Ewan McGregor. And we'll get into
a
lot of these characters.
He was something else.
So let's just start off. What did you really like about this movie?
I loved how the actresses kind of act, how they portrayed their characters. I thought Huntress was great.
That's Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
She was amazing. She was I think she was my favorite. I love Margot Robbie. Like, I, Tanya was a really good movie where she plays as Tanya Harding. And so I really like Margot. But yeah, the Huntress was great. Black Canary was really good. I mean, all of the female characters were, I thought, really, really cool, really awesome.
I like their chemistry a lot too.
Yeah.
Margot Robbie, like you can tell she loves playing this character. She has a lot of fun and injects a lot of energy into this character, which is needed because it is a little bit more of a larger than life persona, much like the Joker should be appropriately. It made me like really root for her because I'm going to compare this a lot to Suicide Squad as we go through, because there's a lot of this that feels like Suicide Squad, but at the same time like does things better than Suicide Squad. And with regards to the comparison to Suicide Squad, it felt like a movie. That's the first part of it.
Yeah, it was definitely a movie. It was definitely a movie. It had a couple of flaws, but all in all, I enjoyed watching it, which I think is the most important part about comic book movies, that they don't take themselves too seriously, because it's supposed to be fun and entertaining. And if it's not that, then I don't know.
There was a bit of like self-aware stuff going on in the movie as well that I was getting behind. I mean, because Harley Quinn in and of herself is kind of sort of a self-aware character in some versions. In others, like, she's a more straight-ahead Batman villain, but here it's like they're something they've been doing in recent years. Like, they're trying to make her like DC Deadpool.
Yeah, it definitely felt like a Deadpool movie. I love both Deadpool movies, so I think this was better than the Deadpool movies. No. But I really enjoyed watching it. I think there were some things that maybe could have been fixed that would have made it a little bit more like successful as far as like the storyline and the flow
Mm-hmm.
of the storyline in the movie. It could have used some tweaking. There was a lot of narration that there were some parts where I didn't really think that they were necessary.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically, the scene with Huntress's backstory, where we get that same scene twice. Her backstory is explained to us in two separate scenes of the movie, and so then it got a little redundant, and then at that point, you as a viewer, you kind of realize like this is a lot of exposition. Like, do we really need all of this?
Something I want to bring up.
Can we trust the audience to understand what's going on, kind of thing? So
that was actually something I brought up where I'm like, yeah, this feels like Suicide Squad, because Suicide Squad does that as well. This thing emulates a lot of the style of Suicide Squad to some extent, but it makes more sense for this movie than it did for that movie. Like, there was a lot of, for example, whenever a character comes up, Harley's slighted them in some way. You know, a little caption shows up saying like their name and then like why they're out to kill her.
Mm-hmm.
And those were really funny at times. Those were really like getting exposition across without like hammering over the head with it, and done in a unique style, which makes sense for Harley Quinn because she's got a little bit of this fourth wall, you know, meta awareness going on. So that does make sense. In Suicide Squad, that made zero sense. They have all those popping up graphics and things like that going on, and it's fun to look at because it's colorful and bright and stylized, but it doesn't make any sense why that would be happening for a more straightforward character other than her. Mm-hmm. So it made more sense here. They revisit scenes in Suicide Squad in very much the same way.
Okay.
But at least here, it was done minimally, and it was done in a way that, like, okay, at least some new information is getting passed across. Mm-hmm. They could have just done that in one fell swoop, like you were saying, but at least it didn't seem like a total waste of time to do it this time.
I felt like there were some kind of like narration and exposition scenes that could have very easily just been cut out. Like it wasn't necessary. And then put in more scenes of Huntress because, it would have been nice to see more Huntress.
The one kind of overlying thing that I was kind of reflecting on quite a bit while watching this, even though I enjoyed the movie a lot, I enjoyed the action sequences.
Oh, the action sequences were so good.
Those were a lot of fun.
So good.
The performances, the chemistry between the main actresses was really good. I especially when all of them came together. That's when stuff really started popping. I felt the performance by Ewan is really, it's something, but it entertained me, you know, for various reasons. Maybe not so much because of the character itself, but just because he's making some choices. And overall, like, yeah, it's well put together, but like the structure at times where you were saying it goes back to a scene and then it goes back to that scene later, or where I didn't really get why they would tell the story kind of out of order.
Yeah.
It didn't really need to be told out of order. Like, there's a point where, I'm not giving anything too much away, Harley Quinn has to go into the police headquarters. And, you know, you the last time you saw her, she was surrounded by Black Mask, Ian McGregor's goons.
Right.
And then a scene happens in between, and then you cut to the police headquarters, and then she's there, you know, doing it. And, like, I could put two and two together a little bit there of why she's there. But we could have just had the scene. They go back and show the scene of, like, why she's coming to police headquarters. They go back and show, like, the deal she cut with Ewan McGregor.
It was a little jarring how they kept on, like, stopping the movie to go back earlier into the movie. Mm-hmm. It got a little, not confusing. It was just kind of like, you had to do a lot of, like, kind of switching gears when I just want to, like, follow the story and, like, enjoy the movie. And there were parts where I was just like, okay, so this was the scene where she was doing this thing, and this is, and now we're learning about this thing. Okay, and then, you know, it kind of it skips, the story skips around a bit, and it's a little it's a little jarring. It
kind of killed the momentum for me for that particular sequence because first of all, there is one thing I'm like, please, movies, stop doing the freeze frame and being like, okay, time out, let me go back a little bit, and then literally rewind the footage. I'm kind of over that gimmick in movies.
There's only one movie that's allowed to do that in my mind.
Which one's that?
Deadpool.
Yeah, okay. But that was the thing. I was like, we're doing this gimmick now. Okay, so we're going to see the deal she made that I know she already made with this other character. Right. Like, I could put two and two together. Like you were saying, let the audience kind of figure stuff out on their own. You could have just had this scene happen in the order it was chronologically supposed to happen, and you wouldn't have lost anything except sacrificing one line of voiceover dialogue, essentially.
Yeah.
But because it's got to maintain that tone and mood, I guess that's why they structured it that way. But I felt it kind of killed the momentum because she's not done in that police headquarters at that moment. Like, she goes on to have another fight, and then another fight in the evidence room with cocaine.
God, it's so good.
Yeah.
That evidence room fight was so good.
It was really fun.
I loved it.
But it was just like, I don't know, it was like there's still more to go on this ride, and now you just kind of killed the momentum in the middle of the ride.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It was the order that the story was told was it was, I don't know, I think it could have been done a little bit better. The scenes that were, where there was action and things are happening, like they're all very entertaining.
I like the last fight.
I didn't ever really get bored.
The production design helps with that too, because the last fight takes place in like this fun house, this abandoned fun house, and there's so much like there's giant hands that are flopping around, and they pull back the hands and like have them like crash into goons. Huntress at one point is like jumping up and down on tongue slides or whatever. Like these open mouth like sculptures with tongues sticking out. She's like jumping off of them, and like at one point, like Harley Quinn's just on a trampoline, just like bashing people with her bat or whatever.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of the action scenes were all amazing. All the actresses did an amazing job at doing those fight scenes. It was really fun to watch. I really enjoyed it.
My main thing just was at certain points, it was a structure, how they decided to kind of, okay, now we're going to go back in time and show you this. Why? We could have just seen that happen at a regular pace. Then there's one scene that felt wildly out of place of the rest of the movie.
There was all the scenes were fine. There was one scene where it was like, I guess I kind of understand, but
it's tonally just not consistent with the rest of the film. And this brings up the character I kind of want to talk about here, which is Black Mask, played by Ewan McGregor, the main heavy of the movie. I'm not really familiar with Black Mask from the comics too much. I know he's mainly a Batman villain. And I know that's a strike against me because I'm a Batman fan, but Black Mask just never...
How dare you?
He never appealed to me. I just always considered him to be kind of like a gangster stereotype.
Okay.
But I guess you got to give him something if you're translating him into a movie. Otherwise,
I feel like they were trying to make him Joker too.
Yeah, maybe that's thematically what it's supposed to be, because it's like, okay, Harley Quinn's breaking free of Joker just to get caught up in some bullshit with another Joker.
Yeah, he was like, it was kind of, I don't know what the good word would be, annoying. I just found his character annoying. And then there's the scene that we're both thinking about, the specific scene where it was like, we already know he's a bad guy, and I guess it was supposed to be a scene where two of our like protagonists, Huntress and Black Canary,
it's a flashback to
have like a kind of shared moment. They were not shared as in like they interact with each other, but they're both experiencing this scene in the same space in a very similar way. And it's a very kind of, I don't know, it was odd. It was uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable.
I immediately looked over it. I'm like, oh, she is not happy about this. And I'm like, I don't feel good.
I said out loud, I was like, I hate this. Basically, like, the Black Mask humiliates. They're at his club, and the Black Mask is...
And the motivation...
upset, and they're like a patron is laughing, and he basically humiliates this woman in front of everyone in the bar.
Is it because she laughed like Harley? Like, was that the...
No, she was... So there
or was he just like, why are you laughing at me?
Thematically, this movie is about misogyny and sexism. So there, I'm going to say it out loud. Yeah, it is.
Really?
Where
I wouldn't have guessed with Men of Gotham.
This movie has themes of misogyny and sexism, and they are very... They're spelled out very loudly, I mean, and so you have, the detective who is working hard and solving all these cases, and then her male coworker is getting all the credit. Mm-hmm. You have Harley who breaks up with Joker, and basically she was always protected because she was with him, and now she's not. Now she's vulnerable because she doesn't have that. She doesn't have him to protect her or be, like, kind of like her boss or whatever.
Well, Black Canary with Black Mask, which that scene I feel not only just to establish like, oh, Huntress was there too when this happened, but also to kind of, I guess, reinforce the idea like Black Canary doesn't like Black Mask, which they establish in her introduction because she starts off like as a torch singer for his nightclub, and the first time these two make eye contact, you can tell from the look on Jurnee Smollett's face she doesn't like Black Mask. It's like you can. Yeah. Do we need another scene to reinforce?
I mean, I think Black Mask is, and they don't ever say that in the movie, so maybe we should use his character. What?
No, they call him Black Mask.
They call him Black Mask?
I thought. Well, his name's Roman something.
Roman something or other. But yeah, he is basically supposed to symbolize misogyny. So he refers to women as collections. Like he has these collections of masks, and then he talks about how like I own her, she's mine. Being laughed at in his own, or hearing laughter in his club, and then thinking that it's directed towards him, and then being so angry to the point where he wants to sexually humiliate this woman in front of everyone in the club, which is like the scene that we were talking about where it was kind of uncomfortable. And then seeing Black Canary and Huntress, who are both at the club, seeing them witness this humiliation. And there is definitely kind of like it's an uncomfortable scene to watch because I think a lot of women have experienced this, not necessarily like this specific scene, but the act of men humiliating them in order to feel powerful over them. So I think that's kind of like the visceral reaction.
And also, just from a filmmaking standpoint, I was just like, wow, this got grim really fast.
Yeah,
this got exceedingly grim. I'm like, what? But it's like they were tackling these themes already in the movie, and I'm like, okay, we're gonna make it really real here. I guess it's R-rated, so I mean, I guess they felt they had the license to be able to take it to some more uncomfortable territory, as it were. But I'm like, I think we got the gist of just how horrible, this setup is, and this individual in particular. I'm like, we get it.
I don't know. Maybe the scene could have been done differently, where it would have been more like successful in like conveying what it was trying to convey. I think a more successful scene that did that was when
he's got the family.
Well, no, when Harley is captured. Oh yeah, and she's basically begging for her life. She's tied to a chair, and Roman, yeah. Sure. Yeah, he's beating her, like he's smacking her in the face, and then she basically goes to her happy place, which is the scene from Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend, which is an amazing scene.
And which is
and then you're kind of pulled back out of that into reality where she's getting like, the crap beat out of her by this guy. Yeah. I think that was way more interesting. It was done in kind of the spirit of the movie.
Black Mask, with regards to just the performance standpoint of it, which is all I'm going to speak to on this, I'm like, he looks like he's having, Ewan looks like he's having fun at least. Like as an actor, he just looks like he's having a ball.
Right.
Because he's going like big and eccentric, but it was just like, that brought it down for me just because I'm like, okay, he made it real at this moment. I'm just like, I can't quite laugh at the eccentricity anymore.
See, I didn't like him from the beginning. Like, I thought he was terrible. Like, I'm not surprised that this character did this, because he was kind of, like, showing these kind of, like, mannerisms throughout the entire...
Oh, so you weren't shocked?
Yeah, no, I wasn't shocked. I mean, I didn't want to, like, I didn't want to see it, but, I wanted to see more Black Canary powers. You get one scene... You get one alluded in the beginning, and then you get one full-on blast.
Well, they say, like...
I was kind of sad about that.
Was her mom a Black Canary before her?
Oh, I don't know.
Was that what, like... Because Montoya comes to see her at one point. It's like, your mom did a lot for this city and everything like that.
I don't know. I mean...
And, like... Well, she says, like, your mom and you have a power, or had a power.
Yeah.
And she lets it loose once in the whole movie.
It was just once. Like,
well, yeah, you're right. It's hinted to before because she shatters the glass while singing. But,
yep.
Like, that's it. And then one big blast of it at the end. But I guess it takes a lot out of her because she fell to the ground instantly. So she needs to practice it. Maybe that's going to happen in the sequel, that she'll be blasting left and right in the sequel.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Possibly. How did you think the kid was used in the movie? Movies with kids, especially rated R movies with kids.
I liked her just fine.
I thought it worked.
I was getting a lot of what, like you mentioned Deadpool earlier, kind of the dynamic between Deadpool and, I forget, Russell? Was that the name of the kid in the second one?
I think so, yeah.
The Fire Fist kid?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was getting a lot of that dynamic in here where Harley Quinn's kind of like taking this kid in and the kid's sort of looking up to her to start off with.
What's her name? What was her name again?
Cassandra or Cassie. I think in the comics she's originally either hearing impaired or she doesn't know that many words. Like she was actually trained by assassins in the comics. So she's like a proficient killer. She can read body language really well. But she only like says a few words.
Okay.
Like, she's not like she wasn't trained for anything else other than killing.
Right.
And so that's the story with her and Batman, I think, is how does he kind of help shape her not just to become a hero, but to become a person as well, beyond just a killing machine.
Yeah.
But here she's a kid in Gotham who's really good at pickpocketing.
Yep.
I thought it was fine.
Foster parents, they suck.
I knew we weren't going to get like a full-on assassin adaptation of her because
that's fine. It wouldn't have fit the movie anyways.
Yeah,
like I think the way that all the characters were developed and helped the story along, I think it worked really well. It's just the flow of the story. Like the story itself is good.
Mm-hmm.
The characters are good. I wanted a little bit more characters doing things and less narration. And the action scenes were good. There was that one scene that was kind of like, ugh, and then just the flow of the movie like sometimes was a little weird.
There was one line where I'm just like, oh, okay, I get it. And I've been dropping it here and there throughout this conversation.
Have you?
Yeah.
What was it?
Brothers. Men of Gotham.
Yeah.
Instantaneously, as soon as I heard with all that exuberance put behind the Men of Gotham, I'm like, okay.
Yeah, so the Birds of Prey, they're in like an old Joker hideout in the abandoned what is that, amusement park? At the fun house. And then Black Mask like basically calls in his bros to help take care of the situation, and it is a boys versus girls war on the playground.
Which I'm like, I get
and
it.
it's fun. Yeah. Like it's a fun action scene.
Yeah, and it's like I would have gotten
what it was.
I would have gotten that without the line. Yep. I would have been like, yeah, I get what
we got dudes in masks.
I get what you're doing.
Into the Purge. It was weird, but that set up basically all the scenes that had the women in it were the best scenes, and all the scenes that just had the dudes, they weren't as good.
I was, I guess, writing another story in my mind about like how what's the guy's name? His enforcer with all the Zaz. He's an actual character from Batman.
Yes. I only know Batman characters because I played Arkham. Yeah. That's the only way I know.
In the source material, Zaz isn't much of a hired goon, I don't think, usually. Like, he's his own kind of crazy. He's playing Zaz like a jilted lover to Roman. Yeah. Like, he's always doting on him, always kind of like...
Well, yeah, he just wants it to be the guys, and he doesn't want Black Canary. You know, because girls have cooties and they make things gross.
I was reading something else into it, I guess.
I mean, yeah, no, I totally agree. This movie is pretty. It's not a straight movie. It's got some queer in it.
It's got some queer in it.
Yeah, it's pretty good. This is the other part of that I liked about it. It was pretty queer. It was good. Yeah.
Absolutely. In the opening prologue, or in the opening for the animated sequence, like they show like Harley Quinn as she's growing up, being like falling in and out of relationships, and they show like a woman. Yep. It's like she was in a relationship with a woman, so it's like there you go.
I mean, I just feel like it was thematically queer, which is always like nice when you have kind of a lens that isn't just like straight, male perspective lens. Kind of like you can definitely tell that there was a different. This movie was written by someone who had... Well, it was
written by women, directed by women.
Yeah.
Kathy Yan.
Yeah. Cool.
So, but, no, I like this movie a lot. It's one of the more entertaining... Yep. Like, I was more engaged with this than I was with pretty much everything before Wonder Woman. Mm-hmm. Like, I engaged with this a lot more than I did with Batman v Superman, than I did with Suicide Squad, absolutely. More so than I did with Justice League, even though Justice League's just a bad 90s movie in 2017 skin. DC's been trying for a lot of these, like, we're going to be a little bit quirkier. And I feel this is one of the ones where it pays off a little bit better because you have a character that is so quirky, like Harley, that it's, you know, even if the humor didn't always land, you're kind of like, well, you know, she's quirky.
Yeah.
The humor's not always going to land so much with quirky.
There was one scene in the fight scene where Black Canary's hair is getting in her face because she's kicking so much ass, and Harley offers her a hair tie, and that was worth the price of admission, to be perfectly honest, because man, let me tell you something, been there. It was nice. It was a nice little touch.
Makes sense too. It's
I really liked it.
Far more practical.
I mean, when your hair's in your face,
yeah,
you're trying to kick ass.
Especially when you had like the whooping dreads, like Canary had it on one side of her hair. It's like, yeah, you don't want those things like getting in your face all the time.
Yeah, people with long hair, they, when you need a hair tie and there isn't one available, and then somebody offers you one, it's true. I mean, that's true teamwork right there. So I appreciated it.
So I guess we're both recommending it.
Yes, I recommend it. Recommended.
It's one of the better balanced DC movies. I know.
It's a lot of fun.
That standard's pretty low compared to what DC films have been before, but this actually is a little bit, it's exceeded it quite a bit.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun. It doesn't take itself too seriously.
There you have it.
Cool.
And be sure to check out our One and Done podcast.
Yeah.
More to come.
Cool. Bye.